back to my channel. I'm Brandy, and today we have a jam-packed episode of Horror Media Monthly. This is covering everything I checked out in the month of March. I've been a little bit delayed with this series because I did have a move this past month, so bear with me. We're going to have these two episodes kind of slightly closer back to back because it is already the end of the month, but that's okay, okay? You can check out horror at any time of the month, at any time of the year, all the time, because horror is great. And we're going to get into what I checked out this past month. But before we do, fellow reminder, I put up new videos here every single day at 4 p.m. Eastern. Hit that subscribe button if you want more content. And if you ever want to check out the games that I play, you can check me out over on Twitch Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. I have all of the live streams that I do are over there. And I have a second YouTube channel with all the VODs. So all of the games that I will be covering today will be over on that second channel if you ever want to check out a full playthrough of them. So let's get into everything. We're going to start off with the movies as we always do that I checked out. And starting off strong was a movie that I saw in the theaters. Now this one kind of slipped under the radar. I'll be honest, I didn't really know much about it until my dad brought it to my attention and wanted to go see it. And I was like, yeah, sure. And that is The Woman in the Yard. The Woman in the Yard is about a woman named Ramona who becomes crippled by grief after her husband dies in a car accident, leaving her to care for her two children alone in her rural farmhouse. Her sadness soon turns to fear when a spectral woman in black appears on her front lawn, warning her that today's the day. As the mysterious figure creeps closer and closer to the house, Ramona realizes she must protect her children from the evil woman who simply won't leave them alone. This movie, it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't necessarily like great. It had a very eerie feel, wasn't super scary, more of just like an uncomfortable feeling at times of not knowing how to process what you were watching. And it really does circle around the main character's grief that she's feeling and kind of unraveling the story that we get kind of towards the beginning of the movie. Overall, it was okay, kind of a one and done watch for me, but it did really get you thinking, and I did find myself like Googling the story after the fact to figure out if what I thought happened actually happened or not, or if I was like losing my mind like she was. It's a popcorn movie that's just chill, and there's not a whole lot to it, and you can just get into it. Then next up, I checked out a movie that's not so popcorn chill and relax while you're watching a type of movie, and that was Heretic. Now this came out last year in 2024, but I had missed it when it was in theaters, but luckily it had been streaming this past month, so I was able to finally get around to watching this. Heretic is about two young missionaries that become ensnared in a deadly game of cat and mouse when they knock on the door of the diabolical Mr. Reed. Trapped in his home, they must turn to faith if they want to make it out alive. Personally, this movie was so-so. It was an A24 movie, and I don't know if it's just me recently, but I feel like a lot of the A24 movies have been like, eh? I used to look forward to them because they were so unique and so out there, and they definitely are still unique. Heretic is a very unique concept, but it was kind of boring. I'm gonna be honest with you. I found that the lead into the scary parts of this was entirely too long. It took us like an hour to get to something actually happening, it felt like. And even though we had good actors in this, we had Sophie Thatcher from Yellow Jackets, and I looked forward to seeing her in this film, but it wasn't enough for me. I don't think it was bad, but it was very heavy on the dialogue and not as heavy on the horror, which was more what I was hoping for, especially when I heard people raving about this last year. So it was so-so for me. I feel like I'm in the minority here because a lot of people said this was like their favorite horror movie of the year. So feel free to check it out and judge it for yourself. And then last up in terms of movies, I checked out something that's been on my list for a long time, and that was GGM Haunted Asylum. I have been wanting to check out this movie for quite some time, but it just wasn't streaming anywhere. So when it finally popped up, I was like, yes, I'm jumping on this. This has been on my list for a while. Plus, you all know I am obsessed with my K-dramas right now, and this is actually a Korean movie with a lot of really incredible actors that I've liked in previous shows that I've watched and that I've covered. So if you check this out, you're probably going to recognize them if you checked out any of my previous suggestions. But GGM Haunted Asylum is about a crew of horror web series travelers that travel to an abandoned asylum for a live broadcast. It soon encounters much more than expected as they move deeper inside the nightmarish old building. I'll be brutally honest, this movie scared the shit out of me. This movie, it was like a little bit of a slow burn. It is more of a found footage type movie, so everything is through the lens of a camera, and it is a little slow at first because they're having to, set the groundwork of why they're there, the crew, what they're doing. Once you get into it, like 30 minutes in, and you start to realize that, oh shit, this is not your standard, like, haunting type of movie. Dude, I highly recommend checking this movie out, and if you do it like super late at night, all the lights off, pitch black room. That's how I watched it. I found myself taking my blanket and like covering my eyes because I was like, oh my god, I know things are gonna pop out and crazy stuff's gonna happen. I really, really enjoyed this. This was a sleeper hit for me because nobody really talks about this, and people really should. So check it out if you haven't, for sure. Top pick for me for this month. And then keeping with the K-dramas, I actually checked out a K-drama, and you might recognize that Park Sung-kun is also in this, who was also in GGM Haunted Asylum, and that's kind of how I found both of these, because I was looking for stuff that he was in because I really like his acting. But for those of you that haven't heard of The Bequith, it's actually a Netflix original show, and it follows Yoon Se-ha, a college lecturer who inherits a family burial ground after the death of a long-forgotten uncle. She soon finds herself embroiled in a series of murders and dark family secrets, particularly after her half-brother, Kim Young-ho, who appears and claims the right to the inheritance. A police investigation leads them and the detectives to delve into the mysteries surrounding the gravesite and the unsettling events unfolding in the city. This is more of a thriller per se, like a suspense thriller, than necessarily like a straight horror film. And I know I've been saying Horror Media Monthly, we're horror, we're thriller, we're mystery suspense. It's an overarching category, and this falls into there. I really enjoyed this. It was a little slow to get started, and I wasn't sure at first if this was going to be something that had like supernatural entities in it or not. And I was pleasantly surprised as it unfolded, because it was one of those things that like, it was satisfying to figure stuff out and to have answers be brought to all the questions that you had. Very short series, so they get to the point very quickly. And I liked how it all unfolded. It really had your mind guessing as it progressed. If you like stuff that like pulls you along with the ride and sucks you in, this is definitely the show for you. Then, last but not least, we played some games this month, starting off with Mouthwashing. This game actually came out last year. It was a highly acclaimed indie game. So many people were talking about it, cosplaying from it, and I finally got to play this with my community. Mouthwashing is a first-person horror game following the dying crew of a shipwrecked space freighter. Who could have known what good old Captain Curly was capable of? Mouthwashing is... bro, it's a thing. This game is crazy. You play as two different crew members on the ship, like their perspectives. Actually, you kind of go through a bunch of them throughout, but you're mainly behind the perspectives of two of them, swapping back and forth a little bit as the time changes, because it's not like a linear story where you're just going through the motions. You kind of get teases of what's going to happen, and then you fill in the gaps to get to there to figure out what exactly happened. There's a mystery, there's horror, there's some jump scares. All around, the atmosphere is incredibly spooky, and you're like waiting for things to happen at all times. I was on edge this whole game. I really enjoyed it. Do I think it's necessarily like award-worthy material like everyone else thought? Maybe not, but I did really like this, and the art style is very unique, very retro feeling. It gives a kind of like a VHS staticky kind of look to it. So if you're into games that have that vibe, this one's definitely it. Then another weird indie game that my community was like, you need to play this. We got to that as well, and that's the game Mannys, which this game was a whirlwind. Mannys is about a man after a plane crash over the Pacific Ocean. Brian, the game's protagonist, is then saved by a woman and brought aboard a life raft. Adrift for days, he then makes it to this island where he stumbles upon a restaurant, Mannys, that pops up every night on the island. You're confused by that description? So was I, because I knew that this game was about being in like a fast food restaurant. So when I initially show up on a raft to this abandoned island, I'm like, there's supposed to be a fast food restaurant here? Like, what's happening? And I honestly, I can't even give too many hints because this game, it's not a very long game and it twists and turns quickly right off the rip. So if you like a really weird story that you have no idea where it's going, but you love every part of it, this is it. It's a little janky, but it's a whirlwind of a story for sure. Then to round us out for the month, we actually hit 3 Chilla's Arts games because I had bought so many over the winter sale. I must have like a dozen Chilla's Arts games. So we've been kind of going through them. First of that was Stigmatized Property. It's about a young girl by the name of Sayaka who suddenly is invited over to her friend's new apartment. And despite being broke, her friend was able to afford the new apartment due to the cheap rent. Even though the apartment looks like paradise for someone who's starting to live a new life. Without the need of parents, it is not all that it seems. It was spooky, it was weird. It basically is about a haunted apartment building. That's the gist of it. It's only like 30 minutes, so it's a very quick play, but it had a lot of stuff that unfolded pretty quickly because of the pacing of it. And the one thing that I really liked that out of, honestly, all of the Chilla's Arts games that I played this past month, unironically, were kind of linked to each other and also linked to previous Chilla's Arts games. So I love when they put little Easter eggs in there. Like specifically the next one, which was Chilla's Art Parasocial. Now this game genuinely scared the crap out of me because it was a little too real. As a streamer, this one hit a little close to home. Parasocial is about Nina, the main character, who works a full-time job as a live streamer with a 3D avatar that she named Senra Nina. The game starts when she accidentally downloads a virus that exposes her real face live on stream, and she's then threatened to continue playing the games her stalker sends her. Now, as I said, this one was scary because it was like a little too close to home because it's literally about a streamer that is getting like threats and can't, sleep because someone is like watching her and she doesn't know what's going on. And you don't know who to trust throughout the game because there are so many people that you encounter that like could be nice but also could be weird. So you're like juggling the decision of like who do you trust and who do you actually believe and who do you think you're safe with, because in this game, honestly, you're not safe with anyone. And then last up, we checked out Chilla's Arts The Kidnap. This is pretty self-explanatory, but it's about a mom that left and never returned, and Rania finds himself surviving on his own after his sister disappears as well. Days pass without his sister, and one day he gets abducted from home. It's what you think. You're a kid. Your mom, the mom in this story is just she's such a butthole, and she doesn't care about her kids, clearly. And you see that the kids are like trying to get her attention and to just have her even care moderately, and it's incredibly difficult, which is why it seems like the kids go out of their way to almost get kidnapped. And you find out as the story progresses what exactly happened. But this one had a whirlwind of emotions and was definitely another Chilla's Arts one. So worthy of checking out. I don't think I've ever had many bad things to say about Chilla's Arts because their games are great. And the 3 that I played this past month, all of them are on Steam. Actually, every game I mentioned this past month, I played every single one of them on Steam. And to wrap up the video, I do have a couple of books. These, I actually didn't really thrift much this month, but my sister-in-law was getting rid of some books, and she had some kind of horror thriller books that I took from her pile before we donated them. So we had Perfect Victim. This is a slashed female corpse, a footprint, a tire track, and a trail of blood in a crowded shopping mall. Even the most jaded cops are horrified by the carnage. Seasoned FBI profile checks out the evidence and sees a much more personal message, a threat that speaks to him alone. We've got I Know a Secret. This is another one about a forensic pathologist who's called to the scene of a body that's in the woods. Very similar type of concept. Another one of being called to a scene and then things are not as they seem. Then we've got City of Ghosts, Cass, who almost drowns, and then she pulls back the veil that separates the living from the dead and enters the world of spirits. And her best friend is even a ghost that she's able to communicate with. So this one's more of a ghost story. Last we have is Left to Die. This is another one about being in the lonely woods. A body is discovered. Crazy. Dude, it makes me think of Danganronpa when like every time you wake up in the morning you hear like the ding ding, a body has been discovered. If anyone has played Danganronpa or knows the anime, you know what I'm talking about. But that's what these are all giving me. Honestly, the theme of the month with these books is like someone dies, and then a research team is like, well, who done did it? Honestly, your girl is getting way more books than she's reading. I've read a couple graphic novels and mangas in the past month. I haven't read any, like, full-fledged novels, so I gotta get my booty in gear and start working through all these books that I have, because right now I have a giant pile, and I have read, like, 2 books this year, so I need to get to it. But that's all that I have for the month of March. We're wrapping it up, hopefully like this. If you want more horror content, please let me know down below, because I can always do more horror videos explaining and discussing specific movies or games if that's what people want. But for now, I'm just doing this wrap-up series until, you know, I figure out a direction I want to go with it. But as always, thank you so much for watching. If you do like this, give it a big thumbs up, and hopefully I see you all in the next video. So until then, bye, fam!